This is a video for people new to setting nails and filling nail holes that have been set. I thought I'd show you my complete set of nail sets. I think I bought one of these myself, and the others come from my grandfather, still going strong. And you can tell even at the top where they've been smacked over and over. This one it's designed to have a sort of a head like that. It's not deformed, but this one has been really whacked, and you can see it's hardened steel, so it really has hardly changed. And these are orange because I was tired of not being able to spot them in a toolbox. These days you can find nail sets that are color coded, but you just look at the tip and you look at the nail that you have to set. You don't need color coding. And also, just for fun, I do keep this nail around as a nail set. It's got such a nice point, it's hardened steel, that these finish nails have a slight concave hole, and it goes right in without slipping around. Sometimes that's helpful. And if you can't find a nail set, what is this, like a 10-penny nail? I don't really know pennies. I know gauges of nails. I'm not a carpenter, but it works as a nail set. Sure, why not? And then, but basically, when you're going to set, I've got 2, 4, 5 nails here, ready to be set, as if a carpenter came along and his nail gun didn't do the job, wasn't set right, which happens all the time. In fact, sometimes they go too deep because they don't hit a stud, and sometimes they don't go deep enough because they do hit a stud, or they hit, who knows what they hit in there. They hit a wood knot that's more dense, and it doesn't penetrate. So there's always a reason to be setting nails. So you just look at the tips of your nail sets. Some are convex and some are concave, and it almost really doesn't matter. But you can tell that this nail set in particular is going to leave a smaller hole that needs filling, and whereas these other ones are, and obviously, the deeper you go, some of these, the deeper you go, you're going to leave a really large hole. And when you leave a large hole, and then you spackle, that spackle will shrink. This stuff is designed to not shrink, but if you put it in a large hole, it would still shrink and crack and need another coat. In some of those cases, when I have more than one day, I will take drywall mud and throw drywall mud into a hole, and as best I can. In the morning, I come back, it's maybe nearly dry or almost dry, and then you can either hit it with some more mud, catch it the next day, or you can hit it with this. And as long as it doesn't shrink in the end, and depending on how much time you have. But this stuff is excellent, and we'll get to the filling of the holes in just a second. So I'm gonna set three different kinds of nails. One is a nail with a head, which normally it's more like a carpentry nail. You really wouldn't set that, but I thought it might be interesting. And then two finished nails, a 14 gauge and I believe these are 18 gauge. And so I will choose let's just go with the big fat dumb one. And it's going to make a big fat hole, so we'll be able to fill it. So before I do that, I'll show you 3 hammers of choice. I'll put them over here. Obviously, on the left is a framing hammer, way too big if that's all you have, but it's heavy and harder to control. Of a normal sort of a household hammer on my right and a finish hammer on my left, you would choose the lighter hammer because you're really not going too deep, and it's nice and light to control. And so here we go with the 18 gauge. Of course, I need to take my glasses off and see what I'm doing. So this is actually sort of flattened out, but it used to be at sort of a concave point, sort of flat now. And you can see, well, maybe you can't see, but when you hit it the first time, it might slip off. So you want to try to catch it really vertically, give it a tap to see, is it going to move, and smack it. That one slipped off again. But that nail may be in at an angle, and so when the nail set hits it, the nail set might slide off. And so you're going to make a slightly larger hole than you needed to. So there's 2 whacks and it's in. I'll use the same nail set on these. 2 whacks. And as long as it's just beneath the surface, if it's too deep, then yeah, it's you don't want to. You're gonna end up doing you're going to end up doing more work than you need to when it comes to filling the holes. For this one, actually I don't want that nail set. I just said you won't be changing nail sets much, but you certainly don't need color coatings. And are you going to remember that red is this and blue is that? You just look for the tip. Does it match? Is it going to make a reasonable hole? I'm going to use my bigger hammer. Just beneath the surface, just perfect. So now it comes to filling these holes. I will fill some with this, and I won't even use the wood filler, but I would like to talk about it just a second. It dries extremely hard. Carpenters will set their nails and that hole's too big, and they'll smush it like that, and maybe they'll smush it with their hand and they'll leave it. And when that dries, it's extremely difficult to sand. And the painters complain and they keep doing it anyway. But this is what you really want to use, is some kind of lightweight spackle. This happens to be from DAP. And this particular container is really old and getting dried up. When you're not using this stuff, it's a good idea to keep the lid on it. And also it's a good idea to throw in some little bit of water when you're putting it away. And so what I do is I fill the hole, and then I leave a little mound if I know I'm going to come back and sand. If I might not be sanding later, what I will do, I'll scratch this out. If I'm not going to be sanding later, here's a hole. Let's say it's in a wall or it's in a piece of trim. I just push in I'm only using my fingers. I really don't use a spackle knife. Just push it in as best I can, and then it's done. This stuff should not shrink. So what I just did there with my hand leaves, maybe it's not perfect, but it's going to get painted twice probably, and it disappears. And it's perfect. It's a perfectly fine solution. Other painters will tell you, oh no, you have to use a spackle knife, and you have to come along and sand it and prime it, especially. No, we don't do that. One thing we will do is let's say the carpenters have left us a bunch of trim, some with holes, some are not, some need filling. We'll usually come along and do our first coat of paint. And then that shows all the little holes very clearly, because now you have white paint, usually white, and you have little black dots, and you can see where you need to fill it very easily. Then you fill a little bit, let them dry, give them dry, and maybe I come around with a finish coat paint, not even primer, and just to prime them, just to give them a little drink, and then hit them again with a second coat. Now, when that's all dry, will these little spots be a little bit less shiny than the rest of the wood? Yeah, maybe. But honestly, unless you're working in the Buckingham Palace, I really don't think you need to worry about that. Nobody I've ever seen has ever worried about that. It's just way beyond a reasonable concern. Okay, so that's the basics on how to set a nail and fill the hole. Hope that helps.